A government secret that had remained buried for over 150 years beneath Kansas soil. A handwritten letter that would bring the FBI director in an unmarked helicopter to a failing dairy farm. All discovered by one single mother's last-ditch effort to save her family from homelessness and the mysterious trunk in the storm cellar that would rewrite American spy history. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning frost crunched beneath Sarah Chen's worn boots as she walked the perimeter of what might soon belong to her, a 280-acre dairy farm in Wilson County, Kansas, scheduled for auction in 3 days. The property had been listed for months, its price dropping weekly as prospective buyers were scared off by reports of diseased livestock, contaminated water wells, and equipment failures that had bankrupted 3 farming families in succession. At 34, Sarah had spent the last 8 months watching her savings evaporate while battling to keep custody of her twins, 6-year-old Maya and Marcus. Her ex-husband's legal team had been relentless, using every financial setback as ammunition to prove she couldn't provide stable housing. The foreclosure notice on her apartment had arrived the same day as the custody hearing, a hearing she'd won by mere minutes. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Linda Wong, the real estate agent accompanying Sarah on her 3rd visit. The previous owners all claimed strange things happened here. Equipment malfunctions, electrical storms. With no clouds, peculiar soil readings. Some old-timers in town say it's cursed. Sarah studied the listing on her phone for the 100th time. Wilson County Dairy Farm, 280 acres, Victorian farmhouse, 1882, original stone barn, $187,000 starting bid. Property sold ASIS, no inspections permitted due to pending environmental investigation. The phrase had worried her, but environmental issues were common in farming properties, and the starting bid was half of comparable properties. "I've researched the environmental concerns," Sarah said, trying to convince herself as much as Linda. "The state testing shows elevated mineral content in one section, but nothing toxic. It's actually why I think we can get it for less than the starting bid." Linda shook her head. "You're the only person who's shown serious interest. Everyone else who toured ran the numbers and walked away. The repair costs alone would bankrupt most buyers." Sarah had done her calculations. Between her settlement from the tech startup layoff, her mother's life insurance, and a risky loan from her 401k, she could scrape together $250,000. If the repairs were manageable, she could convert part of the property into ecotourism, farm stays, CSA boxes, maybe even an artisanal cheese operation. But first, she needed to survive the auction. 3 days later, Sarah sat in the back row of the Wilson County Courthouse, trying to steady her breathing. As the auctioneer began the proceedings, the room held fewer than 20 people, a handful of local farmers, a developer in a cheap suit, and 2 men in government blazers who Sarah couldn't place. Opening bid for the Wilson County Dairy Farm property, $187,000. "Do I hear any takers?" Sarah raised her numbered paddle, heart pounding. $187,000 to the lady in blue. "Do I hear $190,000? The developer signaled. Sarah's stomach dropped. $195,000, she called, her voice barely steady. Back and forth it went. The men in blazers watched intently but never bid. The developer dropped out at $215,000. When the gavel finally came down at $219,000, Sarah felt simultaneously victorious and terrified. She had $31,000 left for repairs and living expenses, enough for maybe 3 months if she was extremely careful. "Congratulations," the auctioneer said as she signed the paperwork. "You're now the proud owner of one of the most unique properties in Kansas. The words would haunt her in the coming weeks. Moving day arrived with autumn's first snow. Sarah had hired 3-day laborers to help transport their belongings while she focused on getting the twins settled. The Victorian farmhouse showed its age: warped floors, electrical outlets that sparked, and a heating system that worked on mysterious whims. But it was theirs. "Mommy, there's a door that won't open," Maya called from the kitchen. Sarah found her daughter tugging at what appeared to be a pantry door, partially hidden behind a cast-iron stove. The handle turned, but the door wouldn't budge. "It's probably swollen from moisture," Sarah said. "We'll deal with it tomorrow." But that night, as autumn wind howled through loose window frames, Sarah dreamed of a woman in Victorian dress, pointing urgently toward the kitchen. She woke at 3 a.m., unable to shake the feeling that something wanted her attention. Probably just moving anxiety, she told herself, but sleep wouldn't return. The next morning, while the twins played in the overgrown garden, Sarah tackled the stubborn door again. A crowbar revealed unexpected resistance, not wood rot but metal. Behind the door lay not a pantry but stairs descending into darkness. Hand-forged iron steps led to a stone cellar, unlike anything typical for Kansas farmhouses. "Stay back, kids," Sarah warned as she descended with her flashlight. The space was rectangular, perhaps 15 by 20 feet, with walls built from limestone blocks. In the center stood a military-style steel trunk, bearing stenciled numbers and what appeared to be Department of War markings from the 1800s. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The trunk was sealed with a complex lock mechanism Sarah had never seen. Around its base lay scattered papers, letters it appeared, some handwritten in flowing script, others typed on thin onion skin paper. One caught her eye, its letterhead bearing the seal of the United States government and a date, March 17, 1863. "To the bearer of this document," it read, "by order of President Abraham Lincoln, the contents of this repository are considered matters of the highest national security. Any individual discovering this cache is hereby commissioned as guardian, with full authority to disseminate included materials as conscience dictates. Signed, Alan Pinkerton, Director of Union Intelligence Service." Sarah's hands trembled as she gathered more papers. Maps showing underground railroad routes through Kansas, spy reports detailing Confederate movements, coded telegrams between Pinkerton and unknown operatives. But it was a leather-bound journal that made her gasp. Inside, written in careful handwriting, was a detailed account of a spy network operating from this very farm. The owners, Elijah and Martha Wilson, had run a complex intelligence operation under the cover of dairy farming, passing crucial information that influenced several Civil War battles. More startling were entries suggesting links to later spy operations, mentions of Project Blue Book in the 1950s, references to a Kansas pipeline used by intelligence agencies during the Cold War. The final entry, dated 1967, spoke of a failsafe protocol activated due to dangerous complications with ongoing operations. The journal writer, identifying himself as Agent Thompson, described sealing the cellar to protect evidence that could compromise national security for generations. "Mommy!" Maya's scream from upstairs jarred Sarah back to the present. She raced up to find both twins on the kitchen floor, the cast-iron stove having toppled while they were playing. Miraculously, they were unhurt. "We were hiding," Marcus explained, "and Maya pushed the stove. Then it just moved. There's another door behind it." Indeed, moving the stove revealed a second entrance to the cellar, explaining why the first, a door, had been so difficult to open. It was designed as a decoy. This discovery reinforced that the property held deliberate secrets, not just historical curiosities. That evening, after the children were asleep, Sarah spread the documents across the dining table. The letters painted a picture of America's intelligence history that mainstream accounts had missed. There were photographs, a 1940s aerial view showing strange structures now hidden by trees, letters from CIA predecessors discussing the farm as a critical asset, even a 1962 memo mentioning this location during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But one document froze her blood. A letter dated 6 months prior, addressed to the current property owner, and signed by Director Sarah Mitchell, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The United States government maintains active interest in the Wilson County property known as the Blackwood Farm. Regular monitoring has detected unusual electromagnetic activity consistent with electronic surveillance equipment. Should any materials be discovered that predate 1980, federal law requires their immediate surrender to proper authorities. Failure to comply may result in charges of obstruction of national security. The letter had been sent to the previous owners just before their mysterious departure. Sarah now understood why the farm had been abandoned so suddenly, why buyers had been scared off, why her bid had faced so little competition. The government was watching this place, waiting. "Mom!" Zoe's voice startled her. Her daughter stood in the doorway, holding her favorite stuffed bear. "You look worried. Is everything okay with our new house?" Sarah quickly gathered the papers. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just old paperwork from the people who lived here before. Let's get you back to bed." As she tucked Zoe in and then checked on Marcus, Sarah's mind raced. She had two choices: report her findings immediately and risk having everything confiscated, probably with government agents moving into her home, or investigate further to understand what she'd stumbled upon. The Pinkerton letter had mentioned her authority to disseminate materials as conscience dictates. Did that order still hold after nearly 160 years? Sleep came fitfully, punctuated by dreams of government, agents and hidden cameras. Morning brought a crisp reality. She was a single mother with $30,000 left to her name, 2 young children to protect, and a house full of potentially classified secrets. Whatever she decided, it would shape their lives irrevocably. By sunrise, Sarah had made her choice. She would document everything first, create her own insurance policy before making contact with authorities. Using her background as a former tech project manager, she began systematically cataloging and digitizing every document, storing multiple copies in secure cloud locations under various aliases. The work consumed her. For the next 4 days, while the twins attended the local kindergarten, Sarah photographed, scanned, and transcribed documents. Some were in code, various ciphers used throughout American intelligence history. Others were shockingly straightforward. Confessions from double agents, assassination orders, lists of covert operations in allied countries. One envelope marked "Do not open until 2020" contained a USB drive. When Sarah plugged it into her laptop, it contained video files from 1989, deathbed testimonies from former CIA operatives discussing the farm's role in satellite surveillance. Programs that civilian oversight still didn't know about in 1989. "Mom, you're working too hard," Maya observed during lunch on the 5th day. "Your eyes look tired, like when you used to work late at your old job." "You're right, honey," Sarah admitted, forcing a smile. She knew she couldn't continue this isolated existence indefinitely. Today, she would make the call. But the universe intervened in an unexpected way. As Sarah reached for her phone that afternoon, it rang. The number showed as restricted. Caller ID displaying only federal agency. "Ms. Sarah Chen." The woman's voice was professional, almost gentle. "This is Director Sarah Mitchell with the FBI. I believe we need to discuss what you found." Sarah's breath caught. "How did you—" We've been monitoring unusual network activity from your property for the past week. Multiple file uploads to various international servers, anomalous encryption patterns. You've been quite methodical in your documentation. The realization hit. They had been watching her internet activity from the moment she'd begun scanning documents. Her digital insurance policy had painted a target on her back. Please don't be alarmed, Director Mitchell continued. I'm en route to your location. We'll land in approximately 45 minutes. Miss Chen, what you've discovered is indeed significant, and we need to discuss how to proceed. For national security, for historical accuracy, and for your family's safety. The line went dead. Sarah stood frozen in her kitchen, the weight of her discovery finally sinking in. In 45 minutes, the highest law enforcement official in the country would be landing at her failing dairy farm. Her purchase, motivated by desperation and custody fears, had thrust her family into the center of America's intelligence legacy. As she began preparing for the arrival, checking that the document storage containers were secure and considering what to tell the twins, Sarah felt an unexpected calm. Perhaps this was meant to happen. Perhaps her mother's frequent quotes about fate came true in the most unlikely circumstances. Her daughter's observation echoed in her mind. When you stop fighting the current, sometimes it takes you exactly where you need to be. Through the window, Sarah saw local farmers' trucks slowing as they passed, curious about the activity at the infamous Wilson farm. In 90 minutes, when that FBI helicopter touched down in her cornfield, their small town would erupt with speculation. But Sarah had learned something crucial these past days. History chose its guardians as often as guardians chose to preserve history. The sound of distant helicopter rotors reached her ears, growing louder with each passing second. In her pocket, she fingered the original Pinkerton letter, her commission as guardian, signed by a president who had faced impossible choices during America's greatest crisis. Whatever came next, Sarah Chen was ready to face it. Her children would grow up knowing their mother had stood at the crossroads of history and chosen truth over fear. As the helicopter appeared on the horizon, Sarah straightened her shoulders. This wasn't the end of her desperate journey to provide for her family. This was the beginning of their transformation from ordinary citizens to unexpected custodians of America's most classified legacy. The failing farm had been their salvation in ways she could never have imagined. The massive chopper touched down, its rotors whipping Kansas soil into swirling clouds. From her window, Sarah watched as Director Sarah Mitchell emerged, a woman in her 60s, silver hair pulled back efficiently, wearing practical boots despite her high-ranking position. Behind her came 3 agents, their demeanor notably different from the intimidating presence Sarah had expected. Director Mitchell approached alone, stepping onto the weathered porch with a knock that seemed almost apologetic. When Sarah opened the door, the director's first words surprised her completely. "Miss Chen, I'd like to apologize for the circumstances that have brought you into this extraordinary situation. May I come in? We have much to discuss, and I believe you'll find our conversation unexpected." As Sarah stepped aside to let the director enter, she noticed the twins peeking from the staircase, their eyes wide with curiosity about the important visitor in their home. Maya clutched her stuffed bear tighter, while Marcus attempted his best greeting adults posture. "You have beautiful children," Director Mitchell observed, her official demeanor softening, "and I assure you, all our discussions today will consider their well-being first." The comment puzzled Sarah. She'd expected threats, demands, maybe even arguments about national security. Instead, the director seemed sympathetic, understanding. Nothing about this encounter was matching her fearful expectations. "Shall we talk in your kitchen?" Director Mitchell suggested. "I find that kitchens make for the most honest conversations." As they settled at the worn wooden table, Sarah wrestling with how to begin this surreal interaction, Director Mitchell pulled out a folder from her briefcase. The seal on it read "Top Secret," with additional warnings about penalty for unauthorized disclosure. "Ms. Chen," the director began carefully, "what I'm about to share with you has been classified for nearly a century. But your discovery, your situation, and frankly, who you are, has forced us to reconsider long-standing policies." The folder's contents would reveal truths that challenged everything Sarah thought she understood about her farm purchase, her family history, and even her own identity. The helicopter sitting in her cornfield was just the beginning of a journey that would take her from a struggling single mother to a key figure in preserving America's intelligence heritage. Outside, storm clouds gathered, the same unpredictable weather patterns that old-timers had associated with the Wilson farm for generations. As Sarah prepared to hear Director Mitchell's startling revelations, she couldn't know that this convergence of classified history, personal desperation, and unexplained phenomena would lead her family to become the protected keepers of secrets that powerful forces had tried to bury for over a century and a half. The photograph Director Mitchell placed on the table showed a confident woman in 1970s attire, standing beside a senator that Sarah recognized from history books. As she leaned closer to examine it, her heart nearly stopped. The woman in the photograph wasn't a stranger at all. She had the same distinctive Chen family bone structure, the same unusual eyes that Sarah's children had inherited. "Your grandmother?" Director Mitchell asked softly, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. I never met her," Sarah managed. "She died before I was born. My mother never spoke much about her." "Well, that's about to change," Director Mitchell said, "and with it, everything you thought you knew about why you're really here." The next revelation would shatter Sarah's understanding of her family entirely, explaining not just why she'd found the classified documents, but why she might have been destined to find them all along. The failing dairy farm wasn't just a desperate purchase. It was a homecoming that had been orchestrated across generations, waiting for the moment when the right descendant would arrive to claim America's most carefully guarded secrets. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, each one striking the old farmhouse like a whispered secret finally demanding to be heard. Director Mitchell opened another file, this one containing DNA reports and family trees that traced back to the original farm owners. The evidence laid out before Sarah suggested that her connection to this property went far deeper than a random auction bid motivated by housing desperation. "Your grandmother's real name was Mei Lin Blackwood Chen," Director Mitchell revealed. "She was the last surviving member of the Blackwood family who operated this farm as an intelligence center for generations. When the program was officially terminated in 1967, certain fail-safe protocols were activated. These protocols ensured that only direct descendants could access the sealed cellar's contents." "The stuck door," Sarah whispered, understanding. "Dawning. Biometric locks," Director Mitchell confirmed. Installed in 1963, they recognize specific genetic markers. The door wouldn't open for anyone else, no matter how hard they tried. Your purchase wasn't coincidence, Ms. Chen. It was prophecy fulfilling itself through quantum genetics. As the rain intensified, Director Mitchell continued unveiling the extraordinary legacy Sarah had inherited. A family line of intelligence assets going back to the Civil War, each generation choosing one member to carry forward the mission of protecting America's most sensitive secrets through seemingly ordinary means. "Your grandmother refused the mission," the director explained. "She was young, in love, wanted a normal life, so the responsibility skipped to the next generation. Your mother likely never knew the full truth, but the genetic markers remained dormant until circumstances aligned to bring you here. What exactly is the mission? Sarah asked, trying to process how her desperate attempt to provide stability for her children had led to this moment. Director Mitchell leaned forward, her expression grave yet excited. To be the civilian guardian of America's true history, to preserve evidence that official channels might bury for political convenience, to stand as a bridge between intelligence necessities and public truth-telling. The role sounded impossibly romanticized until the director laid out the reality. Full government protection for her family, secure funding for the farm's restoration, access to historical archives that could reshape public understanding of American intelligence operations, and the authority to publish findings when timing and national security permitted. But why now? Sarah questioned. Why reveal all this? Why not just take the documents and continue with the secrecy? Because the world has changed, Director Mitchell answered. What we could control in 1967 is impossible to contain in the digital age. Truth finds its way out. Better that it come from a trusted civilian source than through hostile leaks or compromised actors. She gestured to Sarah's laptop. You've already demonstrated remarkable discretion in how you've handled your discovery. You documented everything while protecting your children. You created insurance without seeking immediate profit or attention. These are the qualities we need in a modern guardian. The rain had become a full storm now, rattling the old windows. Lightning illuminated Director Mitchell's face, making her appear almost otherworldly in the kitchen's dim light. I need to call my children downstairs, Sarah decided suddenly. If this affects our entire family, they deserve to understand what's happening in terms they can grasp. Maya and Marcus descended cautiously, clearly aware that something significant was happening, even if they couldn't comprehend the magnitude. Director Mitchell surprised Sarah by pulling out coloring books and crayons from her briefcase. I have grandchildren, she explained with a warm smile. Never come to a family meeting. Unprepared. As the twins colored pictures of birds and stars, Director Mitchell used child-friendly language to explain. Your house has special history, like a time capsule. Your mom found important old letters that tell stories about brave people who helped America stay safe. My job is to make sure these stories are protected and shared when the time is right. Like superheroes? Marcus asked excitedly. Exactly like superheroes, Director Mitchell confirmed. And now your mom gets to be part of that story, helping protect these important secrets. The simplicity of the explanation belied its complexity, but Sarah appreciated how the director made their future sound adventurous rather than frightening. As the storm raged outside, their kitchen had become a war room where America's intelligence past met its future. There's one more thing, Director Mitchell said, glancing at Sarah meaningfully. The electromagnetic anomalies, the equipment, failures, the strange occurrences previous owners reported, they're real. This property sits above a natural electromagnetic field that makes it perfect for certain types of surveillance equipment. Early intelligence agencies discovered its properties accidentally, but they've leveraged them for generations. She pulled out geological surveys showing underground formations unique to this area. It's why satellite communications mysteriously strengthen here, why certain frequencies carry further, why electronics behave erratically. The farm isn't cursed, it's a natural intelligence amplification zone. The revelation added another layer to Sarah's understanding. Every strange occurrence that had frightened off previous buyers now made perfect sense. The property's perceived curse was actually its greatest asset, a natural defense mechanism that kept casual observers away while allowing patient operatives to utilize its unique properties. I need time to process all this, Sarah admitted, feeling overwhelmed by the cascade of revelations. "Take the night," Director Mitchell advised. "Tomorrow, we'll begin the official orientation process if you choose to accept the guardian role. There's no pressure, Ms. Chen. You and your children's welfare is paramount." As the director prepared to leave, she handed Sarah a secure phone. "This has direct access to a protection detail and myself. Use it if you need anything, questions, concerns, or if you just need someone to talk to who understands the weight of what you've inherited." The helicopter lifted off through the clearing storm, leaving Sarah and her children alone in their farmhouse, a property that had transformed from a desperate purchase to a pivotal location in American intelligence history. As Sarah tucked the twins back into bed, answering their excited questions about Mum's new superhero job, she felt the surreal nature of their lives irrevocably changing. That night, as rain drummed steadily on the roof, Sarah returned to the sealed cellar. She ran her fingers over the trunk that had resisted previous owners' attempts at access. Now she understood why it had opened for her without hesitation. It recognized her genetic signature, waiting generation after generation for a Chen descendant to return. Inside the trunk lay more than just documents. She found detailed journals from every guardian who had come before her, each describing their unique challenges and triumphs. Her grandmother's journal was there too, still wrapped in cloth, explaining her decision to leave the life behind and expressing regret that the burden might fall to future generations. "I thought I was finding escape from our past," her grandmother had written. "Instead, I may have ensured its inevitable return. To whatever descendant reads this, I'm sorry for not being brave enough. Don't make my mistake. Embrace the legacy with pride." The words resonated deeply with Sarah's current situation. Her desperation to provide for her children had led her to the very place where she could honor her family's hidden calling. The universe worked in patterns too complex for coincidence, too perfect for mere chance. As dawn approached, Sarah made her decision. She would accept the guardian role, not just for herself, but for Maya and Marcus. They would grow up understanding that heritage carried both responsibility and privilege, that protecting truth sometimes required guardianship through generations. When the sun rose over the Kansas plains, casting golden light across fields that had witnessed centuries of secrets, Sarah Chen stood on her porch as a transformed woman. The failing dairy farm auction had been destiny disguised as desperation. Her children's future was now secured, not just financially, but historically, connected to a legacy that would give them purpose beyond mere survival. The morning brought a convoy of vehicles down her graveled drive. Director Mitchell had returned with the orientation team as promised. But before the official proceedings began, Sarah gathered her children for a special breakfast. "You know how sometimes the best adventures start when things seem hardest?" she asked them as they munched on pancakes. "That's what happened to us. We thought we were just finding a new house, but we found our family's secret story. And now Mom gets to be a guardian," Finn announced proudly, having already internalized the concept far better than Sarah expected. "We all do," Sarah corrected gently. "This is our adventure now, together." As official government vehicles parked systematically around their property, transforming the isolated farm into a secure facility, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey from auction house despair to national importance. The letter from Pinkerton had been right. Guardianship chose its bearers as surely as they chose to accept it. The electromagnetic anomalies that had frightened previous owners now hummed with purpose, ready to support the revival of intelligence. Operations that had lain dormant for decades. Director Mitchell had hinted at exciting developments. using the farm as a training center for civilian intelligence assets, establishing a historical archive accessible to vetted researchers, perhaps even creating a foundation to support families affected by classified operations. Sarah's first assignment as guardian would be reviewing and cataloging the extensive microfilm collection hidden behind the cellar's far wall. Decades of intelligence reports that standard archives didn't contain. Each document she processed would contribute to a more honest understanding of American intelligence history. "Ready to officially begin?" Director Mitchell asked as the orientation team assembled in the spacious Victorian parlor. "I have two conditions," Sarah stated, surprising herself with her confidence. "First, my children's education includes age-appropriate briefings about their heritage. Second, we restore the Wisconsin surname officially to honor all the guardians before us." Director Mitchell smiled approvingly. "Both are reasonable and precedented. It's time the Wisconsin Chin legacy was properly documented." As the orientation briefing commenced, outlining security protocols, archival procedures, and communication channels, Sarah experienced a profound sense of homecoming. Every room in the farmhouse seemed to pulse with the energy of previous guardians who had walked these halls, each contributing to a hidden narrative that shaped American covert operations. The children adapted remarkably well to their new circumstances. Security detail members became part-time playmates, teaching Maya and Marcus basic situational awareness through games and activities. The twins began to understand that their old house held important secrets that their family protected, not with fear, but with pride and responsibility. By midday, the preliminary transformation of the farm was underway. Restoration crews arrived to repair structural damage while preserving historical integrity. Modern communication equipment was disguised within period-appropriate housings. The barn, which would serve as the official archive building, received state-of-the-art climate control systems hidden behind hand-hewn beams. "It's like watching history and future merge," Sarah mused, observing the careful balance being struck between preservation and modernization. "That's precisely what you represent," Director Mitchell noted, "the bridge between classified past and transparent future. Your civilian perspective ensures operations remain fundamentally American, protecting democracy rather than superseding it." As the sun began to set over their first official day as recognized guardians, Sarah gathered her children for a walk around the property. The land that had seemed overwhelming at auction now felt like a protective embrace. Each acre held stories waiting to be preserved and, eventually, shared with the world. "Promise me something," Sarah told Maya and Marcus as they watched the sunset paint the Kansas sky in brilliant colors. "Promise me you'll always remember that the most important secrets are the ones about doing good, about protecting people who can't protect themselves." "We promise, Mommy," they chorused, their young voices firm with commitment. The first day as guardians wasn't just about learning protocols or understanding historical significance. It was about accepting that sometimes life's most desperate decisions led to destiny's greatest opportunities. Sarah's purchase of a failing farm, motivated by housing insecurity and custody battles, had reconnected her family to a legacy that would now define multiple generations. That evening, as government personnel finished installing the last security measures and prepared to leave the family to settle into their new role, Director Mitchell offered final words of reassurance. "The hardest part is over, Sarah. You've already proven yourself by handling discovery with wisdom and discretion. Now comes the rewarding work of preservation and eventual revelation." As Mitchell's vehicle disappeared down the drive, Sarah stood in the doorway of her newly secured command center, a house that had started as a desperate last option and transformed into a nexus of American intelligence heritage. The failing farm that nobody wanted, had become the most protected property in Kansas, watched over by a single mother whose desperate bid for stability had fulfilled a family destiny generations in the making. The evening star appeared in the darkening sky, its light passing through the same electromagnetic field that made the property so unique. Inside, her children's laughter echoed through halls that had witnessed decades of whispered secrets. Sarah Chen had bought what everyone else considered a cursed property and discovered it was actually blessed, with purpose, with history, and with the power to shape future generations' understanding of their nation's hidden truths. The failing farm auction hadn't just saved her family from homelessness, it had restored them to their rightful place in America's shadow history. Guardians, once more, ready to balance the delicate scales between necessary secrets and eventual truth. As she closed the door on their first official night as recognized caretakers of classified legacy, Sarah knew their real adventure was just beginning. The farm that everyone else had feared would now become a beacon of preserved truth, protected by a family whose desperate circumstances had led them exactly where they belonged. In the world of intelligence, sometimes the most powerful discoveries come not through deliberate searching, but through the quantum inevitability of inherited responsibility meeting urgent necessity. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more revelations, and the beginning of their true work as guardians. But tonight, Sarah Chen could rest, knowing that her desperate gamble on a failing dairy farm had won her family not just shelter, but significance, a role in preserving the hidden truths that shape their nation's destiny. The morning sun, cresting over Kansas wheat fields, revealed a sight that would have astonished yesterday's version of Sarah Chen. Her failing dairy farm now bristled with precisely placed surveillance equipment, disguised antennas cleverly integrated into weather vanes and barn ventilation systems, and ground-penetrating radar, confirming every structural element of the Victorian farmhouse down to the inch. What had once been an isolated property struggling to attract a buyer had become, overnight, one of the most monitored locations in the central United States. Though to casual passers-by, nothing appeared amiss except perhaps the pristine condition of the recently repainted barn. Director Mitchell returned at 7 a.m. sharp, accompanied by Dr. Clara Hastings, a historian specializing in intelligence operations, and Agent Marcus Webb, whose boyish face belied his position as the FBI's leading expert on electromagnetic anomalies. The three formed what Mitchell called the Orient Team, professionals tasked with helping Sarah transition from desperate single mother to America's newest civilian intelligence guardian. Every guardian experiences what we call the immersion week, Dr. Hastings explained as she arranged period-authentic furniture in what would become Sarah's study. 7 days of compressed learning to understand not just the what, but the why behind your inherited responsibility. Sarah watched as antique filing cabinets were wheeled in, each containing original documents from previous guardians, dating back to Martha and Elijah Wilson's first coded telegram in 1861. How has all this been kept secret for so long? Compartmentalization and misdirection, Agent Webb explained, testing electromagnetic readings throughout the house. Each decade brought new challenges. Cold War paranoia actually helped mask activities here. People were conditioned to accept certain government presences without question. As morning progressed into afternoon, Sarah began to grasp the magnitude of her role. Previous guardians had influenced everything from preventing several assassination attempts to steering clear of domestic surveillance overreach that might have destabilized democracy itself. They were civilian watchdogs over intelligence operations, protectors of democratic values, even within necessary secrecy. Your grandmother was offered the role during Vietnam, Dr. Hastings revealed. showing Sarah classified documents from 1969. The photographs you found weren't just family pictures. She was conducting unauthorized peace talks between anti-war activists and intelligence officials, trying to prevent more Kent State incidents. The document included a photograph Sarah hadn't noticed before, her young grandmother holding a briefcase between equally young men in military and civilian dress. She quit because the moral compromises became too great, Dr. Hastings continued, but she ensured the fail-safe protocols remained intact, believing future generations might prove stronger. "And my mother never knew any of this?" Sarah asked, studying her grandmother's resolute expression in the photograph. She knew fragments, ghost stories about the farm, unusual family abilities like your children's intuitive understanding of patterns. But Mei Lin believed protecting future generations meant limiting their knowledge until circumstances demanded otherwise. The afternoon brought Maya and Marcus home from their first day at Wilson County Elementary. The twins bounded into the transformed house with questions about new furniture, equipment, and people they'd glimpsed from their school bus. Sarah gathered them close, searching for words to explain their extraordinary new life. "Remember how I told you our house has special history?" Sarah began. "Well, now it's our job to take care of that history, like being librarians for secrets." "Or cool secrets or scary secrets?" Marcus asked pragmatically. "Important secrets," Sarah clarified. "The kind that help keep people safe but need responsible grown-ups to protect them." Over dinner, the first formal meal in their new dining room, surrounded by government liaisons who were becoming extended family, Director Mitchell introduced a concept that would shape their upcoming weeks: the Guardian Apprenticeship Program. "Each Guardian learns through immersion and mentorship," she explained. "You'll study historical precedents, practice modern security protocols, and most importantly, learn to balance family life with extraordinary responsibility." Dr. Hastings produced a leather-bound handbook titled The Guardian's Codex, 150 Years of Civilian Intelligence Stewardship. Its pages detailed case studies, ethical frameworks, and practical applications of Guardian authority. Sarah realized this wasn't just about managing documents. It was about wielding influence to ensure intelligence agencies remembered their democratic foundations. "Your first assignment will be relatively simple," Agent Webb said. "The microfilm collection in your cellar contains evidence of a Cold War operation called Project Starbridge. Recent FSB activities suggest they're trying to discredit these records. Your job is to authenticate the documents and prepare a defensive brief." The assignment carried real implications. If hostile actors succeeded in questioning the integrity of historical intelligence operations, it could undermine current strategic partnerships. Sarah found herself nodding with growing confidence. This was problem-solving at a scale that mattered. After the children went to bed, Sarah descended to the cellar with new understanding. The space no longer felt alien or threatening. Instead, it hummed with purpose. The microfilm reader, a sophisticated modern unit disguised within an antique case, revealed documents that painted vivid pictures of America's most secret efforts to maintain global stability. "Your great-uncle served in Korea," Dr. Hastings mentioned, pointing to a name in one file. Chen Wei-Ming, listed as a translator, but his real work involved passing intelligence that prevented several massacres. Family history merged with national narrative as Sarah read report after report. Her lineage hadn't just inherited a property, they'd sustained a tradition of quiet heroism, operating in shadows to preserve light. The first full week as Guardian became a masterclass in balancing extraordinary responsibilities with ordinary motherhood. Each morning, after taking the twins to school, Sarah returned to intensive training. She learned cryptography, practiced secure communication protocols, and studied the legal boundaries of civilian intelligence oversight. Agent Webb proved particularly patient, teaching Sarah to read electromagnetic signatures that indicated surveillance attempts. The farm's natural field makes certain forms of electronic eavesdropping nearly impossible, he explained. But understanding these patterns helps identify when someone's trying too hard to overcome those limitations. Dr. Hastings focused on historical context. Every guardian faced unique challenges. During World War I, your predecessors prevented German intelligence from establishing covert radio stations throughout the Midwest. During World War II, they identified and redirected several fascist sympathizers away from sensitive positions. By day 3, Sarah experienced what previous guardians had termed the first wait, the moment when the full scope of responsibility truly registered. She sat in her great-grandmother's chair, surrounded by evidence that her decisions would echo through history. The failing farm purchase, motivated by crisis, had placed her at a fulcrum where individual choices could influence national security. Every guardian faces this moment, Director Mitchell assured her during their evening debriefing. The weight feels crushing until you realize you're not alone. You have 150 years of predecessors supporting you, plus current resources many intelligence officials envy. The twins adapted remarkably well to their new environment. Security personnel, carefully vetted and background checked, became substitute aunts and uncles. Maya developed a particular fascination with the encrypted journals, while Marcus excelled at recognizing patterns in seemingly random data. "I think Mommy's job is like being a detective and a teacher and a secret agent all at once," Maya declared. During a family dinner, her observation captured the complexity perfectly. Friday of the first week brought Sarah's initial test. A coded message arrived through traditional channels, a telegram delivered to the local Western Union office, its contents appearing mundane until processed through Guardian protocols. The message, when decoded, revealed coordinates for an abandoned missile silo in Nebraska, where potentially dangerous materials might be stored. Standard procedure is verification through multiple sources, Dr. Hastings explained as Sarah worked. Through the decryption, never act on single intelligence. Guardians serve as checks against premature action. Sarah's careful investigation, utilizing both traditional and digital resources, revealed the message originated from a known disinformation source. Her report, submitted through secure channels, prevented an unnecessary and potentially embarrassing government investigation. "Excellent work," Director Mitchell praised. "You identified the threat, verified the source, and prevented overreaction. That's Guardian work at its finest." The positive reinforcement bolstered Sarah's confidence. She wasn't just a repository for documents. She was an active participant in maintaining intelligence integrity. Weekend brought the first major decision that would define Sarah's Guardian style. Previous occupants had maintained strict separation between Guardian work and community interaction. But Sarah, aware of her children's need for normalcy and the community's suspicion of their property's history, proposed a different approach. "The best cover is transparency where possible," she suggested to her team. "What if we establish a historical society? The Wilson County Historical Preservation Trust could restore period-appropriate buildings while providing cover for necessary security measures." The proposal sparked intense debate. Traditionalists worried about exposure risks. Innovators, including Dr. Hastings, saw potential benefits. Every generation of guardians evolved the role, Hastings argued. Martha Wilson used the farm's dairy operation as cover. During the 1950s, your predecessors ran a successful seed business. Adapting to community integration could strengthen rather than compromise security. Director Mitchell ultimately approved a trial implementation. If community engagement proves detrimental to operational security, we adjust. That's the Guardian's prerogative. to shape the role as circumstances demand. Sarah's first community outreach involved the local Historical Society president, Eleanor Kaufman, an 83-year-old retired teacher with encyclopedic knowledge of Wilson County's past. Over tea in the Victorian parlor, now restored to its 1890s glory, Sarah pitched her preservation initiative. "The farm has remarkable historical significance," Sarah explained carefully. "Previous owners uncovered evidence of Underground Railroad activities. I'd like to properly preserve and document these findings." Eleanor's eyes lit up. "The Blackwoods always claimed that barn had secret passages. Most folks thought they were just telling tall tales." The conversation revealed that local oral histories contained fragments of truth about the property's intelligence connections. Residents had long suspected something extraordinary about the farm, without understanding specifics. Sarah's Historical Society cover provided explanation for increased activity while building community trust. By week's end, Sarah had established herself as both guardian and community member. The twins made friends at school. Their mother became known as the woman determined to preserve local history. Security measures blended seamlessly into restoration work. The electromagnetic anomalies that had frightened previous residents became explained as unusual mineral deposits affecting electronics. Sunday evening brought the week's culminating lesson. Sarah sat with Director Mitchell, reviewing her first 7 days as guardian. "You've accomplished what took some guardians months to achieve," Mitchell observed. "Community integration, successful intelligence triage, protective protocols for your family. You're writing a new chapter in the guardian tradition." "I had good motivation," Sarah replied, thinking of the twins sleeping upstairs. "Everything I do here ultimately serves them, creating a world where secrets serve security rather than threatening it." Mitchell's knowing smile suggested deeper understanding. "Your grandmother wrote those exact sentiments in her last journal entry before leaving. The difference is you're staying to see them implemented." That night, as Sarah reviewed the week's accomplishments, she reflected on how completely her life had transformed. 7 days ago, she'd been a desperate single mother whose highest aspiration was stable housing. Now she managed a security-classified property, influenced intelligence, decisions, and balanced national responsibilities with kindergarten carpools. The failing farm had transformed into something far more valuable than she'd imagined at auction. Not just shelter or financial security, but purpose aligned with values that transcended mere survival. Previous guardians had protected American democracy from within the intelligence apparatus. Now Sarah would continue that tradition while creating new frameworks for transparent oversight. Monday morning arrived with autumn's first hard frost-coating Kansas fields in crystalline beauty. Sarah stood on her porch, coffee in hand, watching security teams perform morning perimeter checks disguised as routine maintenance workers. In 12 days, she would host her first official Guardian Council, a gathering of current and former intelligence leaders who would brief her on active concerns requiring civilian oversight. The failing dairy farm nobody wanted had become exactly what America's intelligence community needed. A place where democratic values could moderate necessary secrets, where civilian perspective could humanize national security, where one family's desperate circumstances had aligned perfectly with generational responsibility. Dr. Hastings arrived early, carrying more historical documents. "Ready for week 2? We dive deeper into current operations where guardian intervention might be necessary." As Sarah welcomed her team inside, she caught sight of Maya and Marcus watching from their bedroom window. They waved excitedly already, adjusted to the rhythm of their new life. The twins would grow up understanding that protecting democracy sometimes required working within systems most citizens never saw, but that civilian oversight ensured those systems served, rather than controlled, the people. The Victorian farmhouse, once a symbol of Sarah's financial desperation, had become a beacon of balanced power. Where previous guardians had struggled to integrate family life with professional duty, Sarah had pioneered community engagement that strengthened rather than compromised their mission. You mentioned yesterday that you wanted to discuss historical pattern recognition, Dr. Hastings said as they entered the study. How current events might echo past intelligence challenges. Sarah nodded, prepared for deeper immersion. The first week had proven foundational. Now came the real work, applying Guardian principles to contemporary challenges, ensuring America's intelligence apparatus remained both effective and ethically grounded. The journey from housing crisis to national security Guardian had reshaped not just Sarah's life, but the Guardian tradition itself. Her story would become legend among future intelligence historians. The single mother whose desperate bid at a failing farm auction had revitalized civilian oversight of America's most classified operations. As autumn sunlight filled her study, through restored Victorian windows, Sarah Chen began her second week as Guardian with confidence born of purpose. The farm that everyone else had dismissed as cursed had revealed itself as deeply blessed, with history, with technology, with the quantum inevitability of bringing the right person to the right place at precisely the necessary moment. The failing dairy farm auction hadn't just sold property. It had transferred destiny, reconnected legacy, and planted the seeds for a new era of responsible intelligence stewardship. And in the kitchen, where great decisions would be made, two children colored pictures of their family defending truth, blissfully, unaware their lives had already become part of America's most magnificent secret history. The third week of Sarah's immersion into the Guardian role brought unexpected challenges that would test everything she'd learned. On a crisp Monday morning, as frost still clung to Kansas cornfields, Director Mitchell arrived with grave news. Surveillance had detected coordinated probing attempts on all 12 Guardian sites across America. Someone was systematically testing security protocols, looking for vulnerabilities in the centuries-old network. We've intercepted communications suggesting a foreign intelligence service believes the Guardian system stores evidence of past operations that could destabilize current alliances, Mitchell explained in the war room that had been Sarah's dining room just weeks ago. They're wrong about the content, but their methods are becoming more sophisticated. Sarah found herself executing protocols she'd been studying only theoretically. The electromagnetic field surrounding the farm, rather than a liability, became their greatest protection. She worked alongside Agent Webb to manipulate the natural anomalies, creating detection grids that could identify approach vectors before hostile actors realized they'd been spotted. This is where your civilian status becomes an asset, Webb explained as they calibrated sensors disguised within antique farm equipment. Military intelligence follows predictable patterns. You think differently, like a mother protecting her home rather than an operative defending an installation. The insight proved pivotal. While traditional security focused on preventing penetration, Sarah proposed something revolutionary: controlled exposure. Let them think they've found something harmless, she suggested. We create a honeypot, false documents suggesting this site merely archived Civil War memorabilia. Their disappointment might lead to valuable intelligence about their true objectives. Her strategy, approved after intense deliberation, worked brilliantly. Within days, intercepted communications revealed the hostile actors abandoning the farm while disclosing their genuine target, discovering evidence of joint operations between American intelligence and Allied services during sensitive Middle Eastern transitions. Your unconventional thinking just redirected a potential international incident, Director Mitchell commended. This is precisely why Guardians must remain civilian, to bring perspectives our training might blind us to. The twins continued adapting remarkably to their new circumstances. Maya had begun maintaining a simplified version of Guardian journals, documenting important things Mum does to help people. Marcus had developed an uncanny ability to sense electromagnetic fluctuations, often alerting adults to electronic anomalies before equipment detected them. Their school integration became unexpectedly beneficial. Wilson County Elementary's principal, Dr. James Morton, approached Sarah about establishing a historical education program. "The children have been fascinated by stories about your property," he explained. "Perhaps we could develop curriculum around local history." Another opportunity for community camouflage emerged. Sarah worked with Dr. Hastings to create age-appropriate historical materials, carefully curated to educate while protecting classified elements. The program became so successful that neighboring districts requested copies, spreading the Guardian site's cover story throughout Kansas. During this period, Sarah discovered her first major historical discrepancy, evidence that previous Guardians had occasionally corrected official records when bureaucratic errors threatened operational security. A particularly troubling case from the 1970s involved wrongly classified documents that nearly exposed deep-cover agents. "Your great-aunt Chen Wei-ling made the ethical call to modify official records to protect American assets," Dr. Hastings revealed, showing Sarah the original documents and their careful alterations. Sometimes, preservation of life outweighs absolute transparency. The revelation challenged Sarah's initial idealism about complete honesty. She spent hours in the restored Victorian library, reading philosophical treatises authored by previous Guardians grappling with similar moral complexity. Their wisdom helped reshape her understanding. The Guardian's role wasn't to expose all secrets, but to ensure secrets served justice rather than corruption. Midweek brought an unexpected development. The classified USB drive from 1989 had contained not just deathbed testimonies, but encoded coordinates leading to 12 additional storage sites, insurance locations established by visionary Guardians who anticipated digital transformation. Each backup site contains redundant copies of critical intelligence, but accessing them requires Guardian authorization, Agent Webb explained as they prepared Sarah's first field operation. Unlike the farm's passive defenses, these caches employ active security. You'll need to demonstrate command of both traditional and quantum authentication methods. Sarah's first expedition took her to an abandoned grain silo outside Topeka. The structure appeared unremarkable, but her new electromagnetic sensitivity detected subtle field variations, indicating concealed technology. Using protocols learned from Pinkerton's original commission, she navigated through layers of security that had discouraged countless urban explorers over decades. Inside the silo's false bottom lay a chamber containing early computer equipment from the 1980s, perfectly preserved by environmental controls. Digital archives stored here documented the transition period when American intelligence began grappling with cyber warfare concepts. Sarah carefully extracted specific files requested by current cyber defense teams facing parallel challenges across generations. The operation's success demonstrated how Guardian work balanced historical preservation with active intelligence support. Past innovations informed present strategies, while civilian oversight ensured technologies served democratic values. Sarah's growing confidence manifested in her family life as well. She established Truth Hour with Maya and Marcus, structured time when she could discuss age-appropriate aspects of their unique circumstances. The children proved remarkably adept at understanding the difference between helpful secrets and harmful ones. Sometimes, knowing special things means protecting them until the right time, Maya explained to Marcus during one session. Like how we don't tell classmates about the basement chamber, but we do tell them that our house has cool history. Their adaptability gave Sarah strength to tackle increasingly complex Guardian responsibilities. Weekly briefings from various intelligence agencies sought her civilian perspective on operations ranging from counterterrorism to diplomatic intelligence. Her questions, framed through motherhood and community experience, often revealed blind spots professional operatives missed. A breakthrough occurred during a video conference with analysts tracking suspicious financial transfers through Kansas agriculture markets. Sarah recognized patterns not from intelligence training, but from managing her family's tight budget. These transactions follow the same dispersal strategy I use for grocery shopping, she observed. Small amounts at different stores to maximize discounts. Someone's using agricultural markets to move money precisely because they appear unsophisticated. Her insight led to uncovering a money laundering scheme financing militia groups. The discovery prevented potential domestic terrorism while validating the Guardian model, civilian intuition complementing professional analysis. As October deepened, preparations intensified for Sarah's first Guardian Council. Representatives from the State Department, Department of Defense, and various intelligence agencies would gather at the farm to discuss matters requiring civilian mediation. The event would mark Sarah's official transition from apprentice to full Guardian status. Historical councils have resolved everything from preventing nuclear accidents to exposing rogue operations, Director Mitchell briefed. Your role is to provide ethical grounding when intelligence necessities clash with democratic principles. The farm underwent discrete security upgrades. Underground tunnels, dating to Underground Railroad days, were modernized to allow secure movement between buildings. The Victorian parlor received communications equipment disguised as period furnishings. Every preparation balanced operational needs with maintaining the property's historical facade. Sarah's mother, Elizabeth Chen, visited during this period. Her first trip since Sarah's purchase of the property. Elizabeth's reaction to the transformed farmhouse revealed something Sarah hadn't expected, subtle recognition rather than surprise. "Mom," Sarah ventured carefully, "did you ever wonder about grandmother's stories? The ones about family abilities, unusual intuitions?" Elizabeth's pause suggested long-suppressed memories surfacing. "I always thought my mother exaggerated our heritage. She'd speak cryptically about guardianship duties, about choosing right over easy. I assumed she meant general life wisdom. Over several conversations, fragments of Elizabeth's childhood revealed themselves. Seemingly random occurrences now gained context. The government officials who occasionally visited their Chicago apartment, her mother's mysterious consulting work, the encoded journals Elizabeth had discovered after Maylin's death and donated to historical societies. "I think part of me always knew something extraordinary ran through our family," Elizabeth admitted. "But I wanted ordinary life for you, stable, predictable, safe." Sarah understood completely. And yet here we are, finding that extraordinary and ordinary can coexist. The twins experience both, protecting national security while attending kindergarten, living in historical significance while maintaining friendship playdates. The conversation strengthened Sarah's conviction that the guardian role required balance, not sacrifice. Her mother's fears had driven her grandmother away from the responsibility. Sarah would demonstrate that embracing legacy enhanced rather than compromised family life. Thursday brought Sarah's first crisis, requiring direct Guardian intervention. Intelligence networks detected planned industrial espionage, targeting American quantum computing research, efforts that could undermine national security advantages. The operation required coordinating response across multiple agencies without triggering diplomatic incidents. Traditional channels are compromised, the briefing indicated. The hostile actors have penetrated government communication networks. We need alternative command structure. The Victorian farmhouse, with its unique electromagnetic properties and Guardian-secured channels, became central command. Sarah found herself mediating between departments that rarely collaborated, her civilian status allowing frank discussions impossible through official hierarchies. We are talking about years of research. The Department of Energy representative stated tensely, loss could set American quantum development back substantially, but hasty countermeasures might expose our own penetration of their networks, countered NSA liaison. We must balance protection with intelligence value. Sarah's experience managing family crises informed her approach. She proposed measured escalation, securing quantum research while selectively feeding false information to reveal the full extent of hostile operations. Her plan satisfied both security needs and intelligence-gathering opportunities. The operation's success validated the Guardian's role as neutral mediator. Sarah's farmhouse kitchen, where such crucial discussions occurred over coffee and Eleanor's famous pie, became legendary among intelligence circles as the room where quantum was saved. As November approached, the electromagnetic field began displaying new phenomena. Agent Webb's instruments detected unusual harmonics, suggesting the Kansas ley lines connected to the farm were responding to Sarah's presence and growing Guardian understanding. Previous Guardians reported similar increases in field strength as they mastered their roles, Webb explained. We theorize the farm's technology adapts to its Guardian's development, providing enhanced capabilities as needed. Sarah experienced this firsthand when attempted cyber intrusions against the farm's systems resulted in automatic countermeasures she hadn't programmed. The property seemed alive with protective intent, responding to threats as if consciously defending its inhabitants. It's almost like the house has been waiting for someone to truly understand its purpose, she mused to Dr. Hastings. Perhaps it has, Hastings replied thoughtfully. Ancient traditions speak of places that choose their guardians. Your grandmother's journals mentioned the farm feeling watchful. Maybe we've underestimated the deep connection between guardian and property. The twins' increasing sensitivity to these phenomena suggested genetic predisposition to working with the farm's unique properties. Maya could now predict electromagnetic fluctuations minutes before they occurred. Marcus demonstrated ability to navigate the house's secret passages purely through field sensation. Our children aren't just inheriting roles, Sarah realized. They're developing abilities that will redefine what guardianship means for future generations. Weekend brought final preparations for the Guardian Council. Sarah reviewed case files of previous sessions, studying how earlier guardians had navigated delicate situations requiring absolute discretion while maintaining ethical standards. One case particularly resonated, a 1962 council where the Guardian had prevented military escalation during the Cuban Missile Crisis by providing civilian perspective on international perceptions. The Guardian's unique value, she noted in her preparation journal, lies in understanding how intelligence actions affect real people in real communities. We bridge abstract national security with concrete human impact. Director Mitchell conducted final briefings, reviewing potential discussion topics and preparing Sarah for challenging personalities among the attending officials. Some participants have worked within closed systems for decades, she warned. Your civilian directness might seem naive at first. Stand firm. Your perspective is precisely why this council convenes. As arrangements finalized, the failing farm had transformed completely. What locals had feared as a cursed property with its unexplained phenomena and history of failed ownerships had revealed itself as Kansas's most significant intelligence asset. The electromagnetic anomalies that had driven away previous residents now protected America's most sensitive deliberations. Sarah stood in her kitchen, the heart of what military brass would soon regard as a strategic location, preparing meals for children who would grow up understanding that protecting democracy often meant working in shadows cast by necessity. The Victorian house creaked with its own confidence, having waited across decades for a guardian brave enough to embrace its full potential. The week concluded with a family dinner, where Elizabeth shared more recovered memories about Sarah's grandmother. Stories emerged of secret meetings disguised as sewing circles. Intelligence passed through seemingly innocent recipe exchanges. Lives saved through warnings encoded in gardening advice. Grandmother always said our family saw patterns others missed, Elizabeth recalled. She called it quantum intuition, the ability to sense connections before they became obvious. Maya and Marcus listened intently, recognizing their own emerging abilities in ancestral context. The family legacy transformed from burden to blessing, connecting past sacrifice with future purpose. That night, as autumn wind rattled restored, windows and security systems hummed beneath historical facades, Sarah prepared for tomorrow's responsibilities with quiet confidence. The desperate circumstances that had led to her purchasing this farmhouse, the crushed finances, custody fears, and housing crisis had proven transformative catalysts. The failing dairy farm nobody wanted had revealed itself as exactly what America needed, a place where civilian wisdom could moderate intelligence power, where family values could humanize national security, where one woman's desperate determination could fulfill generational destiny. From tomorrow's Guardian Council forward, Sarah Chen would help ensure that America's necessary secrets served its democratic soul, proving that sometimes the most important government assets weren't facilities or satellites, but the unconventional guardians capable of balancing security with humanity. The morning of the Guardian Council dawned crisp and clear, a perfect November sky stretching infinite blue across Kansas plains. Sarah stood on her porch at 5 a.m., breathing deeply the air that carried both familiar wheat scent and something else, an electric anticipation that seemed to pulse through the electromagnetic field surrounding her farm. Today, generals and spy chiefs would seek civilian counsel in rooms where pioneers had once debated abolition. By 7 a.m., unmarked vehicles began arriving. The security team had choreographed seemingly mundane agricultural activity to mask the convergence of powerful figures. A grain shipment provided cover for the Defense Intelligence Agency director's armored sedan. Rural telephone maintenance work concealed NSA secure communications installations. Even local residents noticed something important happening, but couldn't pinpoint its nature exactly as planned. Maya and Marcus watched from their upstairs window, dressed in their best clothes per Sarah's request. "Remember, you're representing our family today," she told them, "not just as children, but as the next generation of protectors." "Mom," Marcus had asked seriously, "do they know we can feel the house breathing?" His question captured the extraordinary reality they navigated daily. The children understood intuitively that the farm's electromagnetic field responded to their presence, growing stronger with genuine intention, weaker with deception. This sensitivity would prove crucial in today's proceedings. By 8 a.m., Director Mitchell arrived with the final participant list: 7 agency heads, 4 retired guardians, 3 international liaisons, and most surprisingly, Senator Patricia Holloway, chair of the Intelligence Oversight Committee. The presence of political authority added weight to an already historic gathering. The agenda addresses 3 critical concerns, Mitchell briefed Sarah privately. First, the quantum computing security breach we prevented. Second, emerging threats to Guardian network integrity. Third, and most controversially, whether to expand civilian intelligence oversight beyond the traditional Guardian framework. Sarah recognized the final item's significance. Her success adapting the guardian role for modern challenges had sparked debate about expanding civilian participation in intelligence oversight. Some viewed this as evolution, others as dangerous dilution of professional expertise. The Victorian parlour, restored to its 1890s elegance, served as primary conference room. Period-accurate furnishings now concealed cutting-edge telecommunications equipment. Sarah had arranged seating to encourage dialogue rather than confrontation. No head table, minimal hierarchy, maximum eye contact. As participants assembled, the dynamics immediately became clear. Traditional intelligence professionals clustered defensively, speaking in acronyms and coded references. Retired guardians formed a bridge group, comfortable with both civilians and operatives. Senator Holloway observed everything with keen interest, clearly struggling with information far beyond normal security clearances. The meeting opened with Director Mitchell reviewing standard protocols. Then Sarah stepped forward, not behind a podium or at the table's head, but standing directly among the participants. "Thank you all for trusting my home as neutral ground," she began. "Before we dive into agendas, I want to address something fundamental. Every one of you, regardless of role, serves the same mission, protecting democratic values that define America. Sometimes that means keeping secrets. Sometimes it means questioning them. The beauty of our system is having space for both." The words, crafted with Dr. Hastings' help, struck the right tone. Tension eased perceptibly. Senator Holloway nodded appreciatively, while traditionally reticent agency heads seemed more willing to engage. The quantum computing discussion proceeded smoothly. Sarah's recent mediation had earned respect from all parties. When concerns arose about potential diplomatic fallout from countermeasures, she proposed establishing a guardian-mediated rapid response channel, civilian oversight that could accelerate decision-making during crises. Representative government shouldn't slow national defense, she argued. It should enhance it through broader perspective. The Guardian system provides exactly that. Civilian insight without bureaucratic delay. Her proposal faced expected pushback. "Intelligence work requires compartmentalization," insisted Director Graham from the CIA. "Too much transparency invites paralysis." Sarah's response drew from personal experience. "I'm a single mother who once couldn't afford groceries, now making decisions affecting national security. Compartmentalization has its place, but so does understanding the human cost of our choices. My kids live with the consequences of what we decide in these rooms. That perspective matters." The simplicity of her logic breached professional armor. When lunch break arrived, multiple agency personnel approached her privately, sharing their own concerns about balancing security needs with democratic accountability. Eleanor Kaufman, Sarah's neighbor and now official Historical Society co-chair, had organized catering. Local farmers' daughters served lunch prepared by Kansas mothers, deliberately emphasizing community normalcy. The gesture proved brilliant. Strategy. Powerful officials relaxed noticeably amid reminders of civilian contexts for their work. "This pecan pie recipe came from Martha Wilson herself," Eleanor mentioned while serving the Defense Intelligence Director. "She used to say that breaking bread together prevented breaking countries apart." The afternoon session addressed Guardian network vulnerabilities. Recent probing attempts had revealed potential coordination between hostile intelligence services targeting multiple sites. Traditional response focused on individual security enhancement. Sarah proposed something more innovative. "What if vulnerability becomes strength?" she suggested. "If hostile actors believe they've mapped our network, why not use their assumptions to feed them strategic misinformation?" The original Blackwoods used deliberate intelligence leaks during the Civil War to misdirect Confederate forces. Her historical parallel caught attention. Retired Guardian Thomas Blackwell, now 87, leaned forward with interest. Martha's journals describe that exact technique during the Battle of Gettysburg. They let Confederate scouts think they'd discovered a supply route, then used it to deploy actual Union forces behind enemy lines. The story captivated participants, demonstrating how Guardian principles transcended generations. By late afternoon, consensus emerged around Sarah's proposed deception network, carefully planned exposure of false information that could redirect hostile intelligence while preserving real secrets. The final agenda item, expanding civilian oversight, generated the day's most intense debate. Senator Holloway supported evolution beyond single guardian per region, proposing guardian cells of 3 to 5 civilians with different expertise. Ms. Chen's success shows civilian intelligence oversight works, Holloway argued, but relying on single individuals creates vulnerability. What if illness, accident, or coercion compromises a guardian? Cellular structure provides redundancy. Opposition came from predictable quarters. The guardian system survived 150 years through singularity, noted the NSA director. One authorized civilian per site maintains security through accountability. Sarah found herself mediating between innovation and tradition. Her solution reflected lessons learned juggling single motherhood with national responsibility. What if we pilot a hybrid approach, she proposed. Maintain the primary guardian structure, but develop shadow guardians, trained civilians who can step in if emergencies compromise the principle. They'd have limited access until full authorization becomes necessary. We learn from succession, maintain tradition, but build resilience. The compromise satisfied most concerns. By day's end, the council approved her framework for testing across 3 guardian sites. Sarah's failing farm had just influenced policy affecting intelligence oversight nationwide. As participants departed, many extended private thanks. Director Graham, initially skeptical, paused at the door. "You've changed my perspective on civilian capabilities, Miss Chen. Your grandmother would be proud." The words resonated deeply. Sarah thought of Maylin's photograph, the young woman who'd fled overwhelming responsibility. Her granddaughter hadn't fled, instead finding ways to share the burden while strengthening the mission. Evening brought celebration. Local families gathered for the first annual Wilson County Historical Preservation Gala, perfect cover for congratulating Sarah's success. Children played historical games while adults discussed agricultural restoration projects that everyone understood meant something more significant. Maya and Marcus became that night's unexpected heroes. During the gala's traditional spiral dance, an old farm tradition Eleanor had revived, the children began predicting electromagnetic fluctuations so accurately that they guided the entire, gathering through a minor solar flare effect. Their quantum sensitivity, inherited from generations of guardians, protected the party as lights dimmed but never failed. "Mom," Maya whispered afterward, "the house wanted us to succeed today. I could feel it helping everyone understand each other." The comment validated Sarah's growing belief that the farm itself possessed awareness, responding to genuine intention, resisting false motives, actively participating in guardian work. The property hadn't just provided cover, it had mediated difficult discussions through subtle electromagnetic influences, facilitating honest communication. As guests departed and the house settled into night, Sarah reviewed the day's achievements. With Director Mitchell, "You exceeded expectations," Mitchell admitted. Proposing expansion while honoring tradition, using deception as defense, turning civilian status from liability to asset, you've already changed Guardian doctrine. The week following the council brought rapid implementation of approved initiatives. Shadow Guardian recruitment began quietly, with Sarah identifying candidates through community observation. Local teacher James Wright showed pattern recognition abilities exceptional for his profession. Veterinarian Dr. Linda Martinez demonstrated unusual sensitivity to animal behavioral changes that often preceded electronic disruptions. Both accepted invitations to historical preservation consulting, unaware they were entering America's oldest civilian intelligence network. Sarah's initial training sessions emphasized what made Guardians unique, combining professional skills with ethical intuition, protecting secrets while questioning their necessity, serving national security through democratic accountability. The Deception Network's first operational test exceeded projections. Hostile actors, believing they'd infiltrated Guardian communications, received carefully crafted false intelligence suggesting quantum research vulnerabilities at a decoy facility. Their subsequent attempts at exploitation revealed network methods far more extensive than anticipated. Your misinformation campaign exposed connections between 3 previously unlinked hostile groups, Agent Webb reported with admiration. They're now investigating each other for security leaks. The success reinforced Guardian effectiveness in modern intelligence warfare. Sarah's intuitive understanding of misdirection, developed managing difficult truths with her children, translated perfectly to national security strategy. November's final week brought unexpected recognition. President Martinez requested a private call to commend Sarah's work. "Ms. Chen," the president said warmly, "I've read the council reports. Your approach to intelligence oversight reflects the civilian values our founders envisioned. America needs more bridges between security and democracy." The conversation lasted 30 minutes, during which the president revealed his grandmother had been saved by underground railroad operations running through the Wilson farm. "Your property protected my ancestors. Now it protects our nation. History moves in remarkable patterns." The call concluded with presidential blessing for continued Guardian evolution. Sarah hung up, understanding that her accidental discovery of family legacy had positioned her to influence American intelligence at the highest levels. As Thanksgiving approached, the farm bustled with dual preparations. Publicly, Sarah organized community celebrations emphasizing historical preservation. Privately, she coordinated with shadow guardians, practicing secure protocols. The holiday would test their ability to maintain cover while increasing operational capabilities. Maya and Marcus had begun documenting their quantum experiences. "We feel different energies from different secrets," Marcus explained in his careful childhood script. "Good secrets feel warm, bad secrets feel prickly, mad secrets make the air heavy." Their journals provided unprecedented insight into how empathetic abilities could enhance intelligence work. Future Guardians might develop training specifically for quantum-sensitive children, creating generational advantage in detecting deception. Thanksgiving morning brought unexpected visitors, Chinese officials claiming distant relation to Sarah's maternal line. Their arrival in Wilson County raised immediate security concerns. Were they genuine family or sophisticated operatives exploring Guardian vulnerabilities? Sarah's solution combined hospitality with security. "Welcome to our ancestral home," she greeted them publicly, while private screening confirmed their identities. The visitors were indeed distant cousins, but their interest clearly extended beyond genealogy. Over traditional Thanksgiving dinner, with turkey, mashed potatoes, and corn alongside Chinese dishes from family recipes, conversations revealed their concerns. Chinese intelligence believes American networks detected unusual activities along our borders, the eldest cousin, David Chen, explained carefully, particularly near regions with documented Chen family history. Sarah understood immediately. The Guardian activation had created electromagnetic patterns detectable across oceans. Chinese monitoring stations had correlated these with Chen ancestry records. They sought alliance rather than conflict. "Perhaps it's time our families reunited," she responded diplomatically. "Combining traditions might benefit both nations' security interests." The suggestion launched private negotiations, continuing past holiday celebrations. By week's end, framework emerged for intelligence cooperation specifically regarding protecting civilian populations from state actor conflicts. The Guardian network, born from Civil War needs, might now prevent international incidents through family-based diplomacy. As November concluded, Sarah reflected on transformation that seemed impossible 3 months earlier. The failing dairy farm, purchased in desperation, viewed with suspicion by locals, avoided by wise buyers, had become America's most strategically valuable private property. Her personal crisis had aligned with national necessity in ways that validated ancient wisdom about fate guiding those who served greater purposes. December dawned, with first snowfall dusting Kansas fields in pristine white. The Victorian house, now center of international intelligence coordination, stood proudly against winter sky. Inside, Maya and Marcus played historical board games while Sarah reviewed classified briefings and planned community Christmas celebrations. Director Mitchell's morning call brought comprehensive update. "Your initiatives have been so successful that we're accelerating Shadow Guardian deployment. 5 sites now request your consultation for recruitment and training." The request meant travel, her first extended separation from the children since discovering their legacy. But Martha Jenkins and Eleanor Kaufman had proven themselves capable guardians. The twins would stay within the protective electromagnetic field, maintaining school routines while their mother helped extend guardian effectiveness nationwide. "This is how legacy continues," Sarah explained to Maya and Marcus. "Not through one person carrying everything alone, but through building systems that share responsibility wisely." Their acceptance proved how thoroughly the children had adapted to extraordinary circumstances. They understood that protecting democracy required shared sacrifice, that their mother's temporary absence served principles that secured their future. Sarah's first consulting trip took her to Vermont's Green Mountains, where another Guardian site faced challenges integrating modern technology with historical constraints. The property, a Revolutionary War-era tavern, had been compromised by amateur historians discovering sealed tunnels. "Previous Guardian died suddenly," the caretaker explained. "No apprenticeship, no preparation. The new inheritor, local librarian, struggles. With scope of responsibility, Sarah found inspiration in parallel experience. The Vermont Guardian, Carol Peterson, faced single motherhood and housing insecurity before inheriting unexpected legacy. Their shared circumstances created immediate rapport. "You'll make mistakes," Sarah assured her. "I did. The secret is viewing each challenge as learning opportunity. Guardian work adapts to your strengths while developing new capabilities." Over several days, she helped Carol establish family work boundaries, integrate with local community for better cover, and identify potential shadow guardians for support network. The transformation mirrored Sarah's own journey, validating her belief that guardian roles could flourish through modern approaches. Vermont trip concluded with breakthrough discovery. Ancient tunnels held documents suggesting guardian sites formed deliberate constellation pattern, 12 primary locations connected by ley lines, forming enormous star formation, visible only. From satellite perspective, this revelation connected Guardian network to Earth energy systems far older than Civil War origins. Sarah returned to Kansas with expanded understanding. The failing farm she'd purchased hadn't just held family secrets. It occupied one vertex of an ancient power network that early Guardians had discovered and utilized for intelligence purposes. The electromagnetic anomalies weren't coincidence, but conscious positioning by ancestors who understood Earth's energy flows. Christmas preparations merged public celebration with private milestone. Dr. Hastings had identified additional Guardian sites in Mexico and Canada, suggesting North American intelligence exchange predated modern borders. Sarah proposed holiday gathering to discuss continental cooperation, using community celebrations as diplomatic cover. The event drew representatives from intelligence services throughout North America. Children from different countries played together while officials discussed security cooperation disguised as cultural exchange. Maya and Marcus served as natural ambassadors, their quantum sensitivity creating bridges between varying electromagnetic frequencies different sites generated. Your property's field strength increases with positive intention, Mexican Representative Maria Delgado observed. Perhaps Guardian sites respond to harmonious purpose. The insight aligned with Sarah's growing spiritual understanding of her work. The failed auction that had brought her family to Kansas hadn't been desperate salvation. It had been cosmic alignment. The farm had waited through generations for someone who would embrace both its practical mission and metaphysical awareness. As Christmas Eve arrived, Sarah gathered her extended guardian family, immediate relations, shadow guardians in training, international colleagues, and local community members who provided cover without knowing full truth. The Victorian parlor glowed with traditional decorations and modern communications equipment, symbolizing perfect blend of heritage and innovation. This house has waited 150 years for tonight, retired Guardian Thomas Blackwell proclaimed during dinner. When ordinary people make extraordinary choices, history rewards them with purpose beyond imagination. His toast acknowledged not just Sarah's success, but every individual present who'd chosen principle over convenience, service over selfishness, truth over expedience. The failing dairy farm had created community of conscience spanning generations and borders. Later, as children's laughter echoed through halls where intelligence history had unfolded, Sarah stepped onto her porch beneath winter stars. The electromagnetic field pulsed gently, no longer alien presence, but friendly companion sharing her midnight contemplation. 3 months prior, she'd stood on this same porch, imagining only survival, hoping merely to provide stable shelter for her children. Now she understood that desperation had been divine redirection, leading her family to meaning far exceeding comfort or convenience. The failing farm nobody else wanted had revealed itself as precisely what needed finding. Not despite its mysteries, but because of them. Kansas soil held secrets American democracy required, electromagnetic anomalies protected truths necessary to preserve. What others had feared as curse was actually blessing waiting for proper recipient. As first day of 2025 approached, Sarah Chen prepared to expand Guardian influence further. International cooperation established through Christmas celebrations would formalize into intelligence-sharing network protecting civilian populations. Her journey from desperate single mother to national security asset would inspire new protocols balancing family life with classified responsibilities. The Victorian house settled into familiar creaks and whispers, electromagnetic field humming reassurance through winter night. Inside, 2 children dreamed quantum dreams, while their mother planned strategies protecting those dreams from threats most citizens never imagined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more travelers seeking guardian wisdom, continued evolution of America's oldest civilian intelligence legacy. But Sarah faced the future with confidence earned through trials that had proven her worthy of inheritance she'd accidentally claimed. The failing dairy farm auction hadn't just saved her family from homelessness. It had connected them to purpose transcending generations, legacy transforming personal crisis into national service, destiny proving that sometimes greatest responsibilities arrive disguised as desperate solutions. As midnight struck, Sarah smiled at the stars above Kansas plains. The farm's electromagnetic field responded to her contentment, strengthening, perceptibly as if celebrating their mutual success. What had begun with eviction notice and auction paddle now stretched toward horizons where civilian wisdom would guide intelligence power throughout the 21st century. The house that everyone else had rejected had become exactly what America's future needed. A place where democracy's values moderated security's necessities, where family perspective humanized national decisions, where one woman's unexpected inheritance would help shape ethical intelligence for generations to come. Up next, you got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.